National airlines, they're often symbols of pride, but, well, they can face some serious financial turbulence.
Definitely.
Today, we're kind of pulling back the curtain on SriLankan Airlines. We've got their latest financial summary for the year ending March 2025.
Right.
And our mission really is to understand the real financial headwinds they're actually facing based on these numbers.
And those headwinds, well, they look pretty strong right from the start. The report shows a loss, a significant one, of rupees 3.4 billion for the year.
3.4 billion. Okay.
Yeah, but what really jumps out, I think, is that this loss is up by a huge 143% compared to the year before.
Wow, 143%. That's a dramatic increase.
It is. Even for airlines, that kind of jump makes you ask, what's really driving this?
Absolutely. And you'd think maybe with global fuel prices dropping, things might look a bit better.
You would hope so.
The report actually says fuel costs fell by rupees 23.5 billion. That's substantial.
It is. So a major expense goes down significantly.
Yet the losses shoot up like that. It suggests some pretty big underlying issues, wouldn't you say?
Precisely. It tells us that whatever they saved on fuel was, well, more than wiped out by other problems.
Okay.
And the report does point to some of those, especially a dip in how much money they're actually bringing in.
Right. So passenger revenue, the money from tickets, basically it took an 18% hit.
18%.
Yeah, that's a decrease of rupees 47.4 billion. And net traffic revenue, that also dropped 13%, or rupees 40.5 billion.
Those are big numbers. That's a serious chunk of income just gone.
What's really worrying about that drop?
Well, the report highlights something quite stark. 31 out of their 45 routes are currently loss-making.
31 out of 45. Wow.
Yeah, that's a clear sign of fundamental problems with their network when most of your routes aren't making money.
It creates a massive drag on everything else.
Exactly. You really have to question if those routes are sustainable. Maybe a serious rethink is needed there.
It definitely paints a picture. And it's not just money not coming in. Expenses seem to be climbing in key areas too.
That's right. Administration costs, for instance, they shot up 26% to rupees 3.4 billion.
26%.
And interestingly, the report specifically mentions US $3 million in that, just for legal fees to Airbus lawyers in London.
3 million just in legal fees.
Mm-hmm.
That specific detail does make you wonder, doesn't it? What was that about?
It does raise questions, maybe negotiations, maybe a dispute. Hard to say from just this summary, but it's a noticeable expense.
Definitely. Then you see increases in flight operations that covers pilot payments and such, up by US $4.4 million.
Reaching US $50.8 million total.
And their commercial division costs also jumped by US $5.6 million, hitting US $77.6 million.
So yeah, costs are creeping up in several places, eating away at any savings from that cheaper fuel.
And then there's the debt.
Yes. Layered on top of all this is just the sheer weight of their existing debt. The report puts it at US $978 million.
Nearly $1 billion.
Almost $1 billion US dollars. Plus, they've got rupees 51 billion in unpaid invoices. Suppliers waiting to be paid.
Wow. That scale. It really highlights the enormous financial challenge they're up against. It's a huge burden.
A massive burden. And the immediate future doesn't look much easier, does it?
No. The report forecasts a net cash deficit of nearly US $40 million over just the next 4 months.
$40 million shortfall short term.
That sounds like they could be facing some really tight cash flow years.
It certainly seems that way. And, it brings up a bigger question, one the report sort of hints at.
Which is?
Well, who ultimately bears the burden for these kinds of ongoing losses in a state-owned airline? Is it the taxpayers? What's the ripple effect on the wider economy when a national carrier is struggling like this? Something for you, the listener, to think about.
So, stepping back, this dive into SriLankan's financials shows a pretty concerning picture. We've got ballooning losses despite lower fuel costs.
Right. Significant drops in revenue.
Rising expenses in different areas.
Yeah.
This mountain of debt.
And a potential cash crunch looming.
Yeah, it definitely looks like they're in a tough spot.
It really does. And it makes you think about the long-term picture for national carriers more generally, doesn't it? How sustainable are situations like this?
Hmm.
What are the truly viable options when an airline faces this level of financial pressure? And, what are the difficult choices that might need to be made?